Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good, and we love talking about technology, innovation, digital transformation, automation, and so much more. We're honored to be joined by our longtime City Current partner, Sridhar Sunkara. He's the CEO and Chief Strategist with eBiz Solutions. How are you doing?
Great. How are you, Jeremy?
Doing good. Before we even talk about eBiz Solutions and the work you do, let's talk about some digital trends because there's a lot going on. And when you look at the pandemic and going through that and using technology just to survive, and now coming out, we're in a very different phase of disruption. So give us a little bit of your vantage point, your world when it comes to where we are in the state of technology.
Sure. One thing what 2020 did is people understood the impact of technology, the reason why they really need to think about the transformation. And a lot of people, even before 2020, we were talking about digital transformation. A lot of people didn't understand what it is, what is the impact. But 2020 really made you either survive, you're lost if you don't have a good digital platform or strategy. So that made every C-suite in their mind, okay, now we need to focus on digital. What would digital do? But also we always want to follow the trends, what we call mega trends. What are the mega trends for the next decade? So if you see the mega trends for this decade, it's shifting of the energy markets, shifting climate, right? Climate change. Digitalization is on the top, right? And then you're also looking at aging population, like shifting in the global economic power, right? And then connected consumer. These are some of the big mega trends. We always want to follow those because the markets will follow, the businesses will follow that. Right. So what our goal is to, okay, where do we fit in this mega trends? Our goal is, okay, digitalization is what we do. Connected consumers is what we help. But also we work with companies that are in the aging population, businesses that do with aging population, right? So businesses that get impacted by global economic power shift, right? So the manufacturing and all. So they all need some kind of a new ways to do business, so they can minimize the impact. So that's the global trends we follow. And so based on that, what we thought is, okay, we got to move and people want to shift fast. So the big trends, you must have heard about it. And if you Google, you will see hundreds and thousands of articles called low code, no code. That's the new shift. And so before it takes a long time to build a custom solution. And by the time you build, it's not what people really need. Right. So the new trend is build quickly with low code, no code. It's less code, drag drop kind of things. Like you can, when you use, for example, you use Microsoft 365, you might use a planner, or you might use one of their OneNote or one of the apps that they have their quick power automate that can build quickly. You can drag drop and you got a small automation done. People are going towards that, and the citizen development is going to be the trend of this decade. Everybody wants to build their own things. They don't want to depend on an IT department to build them a report or do this. They just want to drag drop. IT is still very important on the critical aspects of the company, but with day-to-day operations, pretty much every business unit want to drive their own way, how do they run the business. So that is where every trend is going, and all the technologies from Oracle, Microsoft, Salesforce, and there's so many that they're coming out with their own low code, no code platforms.
So making it very easy for businesses to customize, to move quickly. So making it easy for the user. And then also, to your point, when you look at all the connected devices, the interconnectivity, that allows for opportunities. And I know that you have a ton of different platforms and technologies, and we've talked about those in the past with beacons and such, but really leveraging the connected devices. And then to your point, the digitization, automation, leveraging technology to be powerful, both for your team, your employees, and your end users, your consumers. And so really internal and external technology is everywhere, but it's just a matter of, to your point, how are you leveraging it and how are you looking ahead for the future versus being reactive? So being proactive versus reactive. When you're sitting down with businesses and you're looking at, okay, where are you today versus where you want to go tomorrow? And we'll talk about how automation plays a role in this, but what are the areas that you're starting to look at when it comes to the technology, the digital transformation? Where are you looking and what are you looking for?
So we look at like 7 areas of the business, right? First, we start with the customer. If you don't start with the customer, you're losing day one. You don't want to start from like, I want to make money or I want to make profit. You want to look at customer. What is the customer needs and what is the customer is used to? Right? So people are used to like TikTok, and if you are going to go towards like social media, they want the speed, quick, 5 seconds TikTok kind of thing. So we need to look at the trends. What is the customer looking for? You can't have like a 20-30 minutes video. Now people are not going to watch. That's why you see the YouTube is breaking that into parts so you can go to wherever you want to, right? So what is the more customer value we can give, right? What does the customer gets delighted by? When I say customer, it's also employees, not just customer, right? The human. And then looking at how can we leverage digital as the growth engine, not as a back office thing that people think about technology, but also how do you manage disruptions, right? How can you manage disruptions to technology? So those are the 4, and then come to the company side, which is more company centric, which is, okay, how can we increase the revenue? How can we decrease the costs? Right, reducing the cost, and how can you automate and reduce the manual errors? So those are the areas that we just want to focus first, because if you do those and you can start from the customer side and then come to the back, it is going to be a very valuable business proposition for them to invest in the transformation, right? Why do they want to invest the money in this digital transformation?
Give us an example when you talk about automation, and obviously businesses can range dramatically in terms of what they can automate, but give us an illustration around some of the ideas and some of the areas that you look at automatically to say, hey, these are areas that you could automate pretty quickly.
Yeah. So we go in and we look at like 8 aspects in the business. One is we look at all the business processes. We go down, first we ask them to tell us what they do, and then we observe what they do, and then we ask questions. So they all differ. For the same process, they all differ the way they answer them, right? So one is we look at what are the, within the business process, what are the manual processes? What are the processes where they could, errors could happen, right? What are the areas where it's repetitive and it's a routine work? High volume, there's a lot of volume, like continuous they're doing, right? And what is the where there's a lot of duplication? They put in one system, they put in another system, they again have to put somewhere else. And what is that's a resource consuming, right? And then what areas they're frustrated with the system itself. And then we look at, okay, if people are using multiple systems to get one job done, right? So those are the areas that we focus first because they're very quick, so that you can fix those very quickly. So that would be our first focus on how we want to see, okay, where we can really leverage technology to have high efficiency and high productivity for the companies. The return on investment is first reduce the number of hours people are spending it. So give some hours back to them. If they're doing 10 hours work, okay, how can I make it only like 7 hours they can do the work, right? So then they can leverage those hours.
Yeah. So we haven't even talked about eBiz Solutions and what you do yet. So go ahead and talk about what eBiz Solutions does.
Sure. At eBiz, what we generally do, whatever we are talking right now, so we help companies in the digital transformation. So when we call digital transformation, we also call digital maturity, right? So people are at one of the levels. So it's starts from 0 to 5. 5 is like you have like there's Google's, Tesla's, Amazon's, they're completely digital cloud. They're thinking first completely digital. Their strategy is from digital and they can see which business can go through that strategy, right? So those are at 5. Then you have 4 where it's like artificial intelligence. A lot of business decisions are made by data on its own, right? And then you have at level 3 where you have centralized data. The data is giving you decisions, but they're not making decisions, but they'll give you what, and you make the decisions, right? All the centralized. And then the 2 is bringing all of your systems and your processes together and collecting at one place. 1 is first digitalization, right? Bringing paper, no paper, you're bringing everything on there. If you're in 0, you have a lot of paperwork too. So we have companies as we are doing, if they're at 3, they're very good. But most of the companies are in 0.78 to 1.5, right? But when you go into those companies, they want to go from that 1.5 to 5. They cannot. It is only a journey. It is not a sprint. You got to take the next, because it's not just because of the technology, it is the users. There's a cultural shift to move towards the 5 or 2 or 3. So you got to do all of them together, the leadership, the strategy, the processes, technology, data, insights, innovation, and governance. All of them need to move towards each one. So it is a journey. So we tell them that it can't happen overnight. You got to go one step at a time and bring all of this for all of them into a picture, your customers, your people, your technology. So it has to happen through a journey. When we are doing that now, what we have done is we created our own framework for this journey. We call it as guide. It's easy to remember, and also our mission is to guide companies to leverage technology to win in their respective areas of industries. So what that guide means, like first G is for gather. We gather all the information about them. Like we do leadership surveys, company surveys, understand. Once we gather all of them, gather their goals, and then we understand what are the business processes, right? How is their global architecture looks like, right? Well, how are the licenses they have? When you go in, sometimes you don't even know that people don't even know that they have that many licenses, and they're just wasting money, right? So multiple tools, that means you have to have trainings for multiple tools, right? And that's why people get frustrated in companies using so many tools. Then we also look at the technical debt, which means like you might be using a tool and somebody else in the other department uses a different tool, but they do pretty much the same thing. That's a technical debt, right? So we look at those, and then we look at the KPIs, understand it. Then we completely reimagine their business processes, reimagine the business, the culture. Then we build the roadmaps, build like what is it the done would look like, right? The growth would look like. And then we start delivering. And then that's the D. And then E is continuous evolution, enhancing. So we continuously, you can't just stop. It's not like one and done. Yeah, technology is not one and done. It's a continuous evolution of it. So we use that process and we create this framework. So it's very easy. We come in 14 weeks, we do this first part of it, and then the roadmap is depending upon how long they want to go and how much time they could spend with us so that we can implement those roadmap tasks for them.
Well, just like building a championship team, whether it's football, basketball, pick your sport, it takes time, it takes leadership, it takes culture, it takes the foundation, everything you're talking about, it applies, in the business context around, hey, you have to take a long-term strategic approach to building this to ultimately create the success. And obviously you're going to have some wins right out of the gate, but ultimately when you talk about taking it to the next level, to get to that 5, it takes a strategic long-term approach. And like you said, it's not a sprint, it's a journey. And so talk about the leadership that this requires, the framework, the mental side, and how executives and business professionals can start building that culture that ultimately is going to permeate and allow for this growth. So what's the mindset? What's the leadership culture that needs to be created to enable this?
Yeah, that's a very, very important point, because first and foremost, if the leadership is not in, it's not going to happen. It's a waste of their time and money. Just they're trying to do somebody they heard like doing digital transformation, they want to do it. If they don't understand it, there's no point, right? The most important thing about culture is a lot of companies still have this experts. They think they're expert in that. So when you heard the name, when somebody says they're expert, that means you want to run away from them. There's no more experts, right? Everybody's learning today. That's a fixed mindset. I know exactly this is how it needs to be done because I've done it. You don't want, right? You want to have the growth mindset, top to bottom, everybody, right? You always are looking to learn new things. You're ready to change, right? So you have to have the growth mindset and have everybody in the top C-suite and the bottom, you got to have that mindset. So that is the culture you build, so that when the leader is in that mindset, everybody is ready to work with them. They get inspired by them. Right. So that is the first, you need to set the culture and the tone of the company in order to progress. If not, it's not going to happen. And most of the time, because it's a change means it's a habit, and people don't like to change habits, right? So the two things why people stop and they want to go back to their existing behavior. One is habit. The second one is the anxiety of what the new thing is going to look like, because they don't know what it is. So they're scared, right? But what would push them? So we need to think about what is the ones that push them to go to the new thing. One is they're in a situation they're in bad situation. They got to get out. And they have to say, this is the only way. And the other one is they see the opportunities when they go there. You move from this and you go into this new platform or new culture or new technology. You see now it has reduced and minimized our pain, but also it increased opportunity for new things to see. So that should be higher than their habit and anxiety. So that is, again, that's why we create the success team. So the success team is like a bell. When you see the bell curve, you have the innovators, the early adopters, then the early majority, late majority, and the laggard. So you don't want to put a laggard in the success team. It's not going to happen. So you want to put the people that are more enthusiastic about changes. So that's what, when we do our surveys, we identify those people, because we have questions that we can say, based on the answer, we know that that person needs to be part of it. Also, there's a decision maker within the success team. So we have this, so it's easy to adopt, because technology is not the challenge. It's the people is the challenge, right? So if we can have a better success team, that the adoption might be much easier and faster. Yeah. So that's how we need to make sure the culture is set from the leader and top down.
Good stuff. Well, where do we go to carry these conversations forward? So following you and obviously learning more about eBiz solutions, where do we go?
Sure. I mean, our website is thinkebiz.net. And then once you go there, you can see our LinkedIn and our Facebook and Twitter. So we have our rest of the social media on there.
Well, Sridhar, always a pleasure to have you on. You're a wealth of information. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me here. Have a great holidays.